Hello, church family. Um, Thanks for joining me this Word for Wednesday. And as in our lead up to Easter, as we're going through what is sometimes called the Passion Week or the Holy Week leading up to Easter, I just had a few thoughts as I was reading through scriptures this week. Something jumped off the pages to me in Matthew, specifically where I was, but find this in the other Gospels too. Probably I didn't look, but I stuck mostly in Matthew. And what I found was, uh, you know, it's really interesting. All four of the Gospels devote a huge amount of time to the last week of Jesus' life. I don't know the exact percentages or numbers, but and Matthew, Luke, and John, it's probably close to a third of the of those particular books are dedicated to the last week of Jesus's life, going up to his crucifixion and resurrection. In Mark, you got almost half the book dedicated to that last week, where all the rest of those books, they're dedicated to 30 some odd years of his first 30 some odd years, all leading up to that point. So I think it's fair to say that the gospel writers thought this last week leading up to the crucifixion was very important. And indeed, in church history, many traditions have made these this week from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday very important. Give them names. Usually, Monday and Tuesday are called Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday. Thursday usually called Maundy Thursday or something like that. I grew up Baptist. We didn't follow traditions like that, so I'm not entirely sure what other church traditions did. But I always found it very interesting thinking about this last week of Jesus' life. And as I was studying it this week in the book of Matthew, something jumped off the pages to me that I want to share with you. Now, there's, of course, a very famous scene in Matthew 21, verses 12 through 17. I'm going to go ahead and read that. This is the famous scene where Jesus cleanses the temple. Then Jesus went into the temple of God and drove out all those who bought and sold in the temple and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said to them, "It is written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer,' but you have made it a den of thieves." That was verses 12 and 13, so I'll just stop there. And what I'm noticing there is Jesus went into the temple, got very upset by what he saw, took action, and caused a ruckus, and then that was on Monday. Well, what happened on Tuesday? On Tuesday, we see that start in Matthew 21, verse 23. And where is he? He's back at the temple. One day later, he's back at the temple, and Matthew dedicates a good chunk of space to his teachings in the temple during that time. And what really struck me is Jesus went to the temple on Monday, got really upset by what he saw, and was still back in the temple on Tuesday. And I think about it, and going to the temple, that was part of the religious obligations he grew up with, part of the religious obligations of the Jews of that time in that place. Well, we don't, we as Christians, we don't go to the Jewish temples today, but God, Jesus did establish his church, and we are told not to forsake the gathering of ourselves together in that church. Well, Jesus, when he was doing his obligations, he went to the temple, got upset by what he saw, but still went back to the temple. And indeed, in the rest of the Gospels, we see him go to the synagogues where he is challenged by the Pharisees and is forced to confront their hypocrisy repeatedly, but he still goes back to the synagogues. He still goes to the temples. And on Monday, he got upset, overturned the money changers' tables. And then on Tuesday, he was back at the temple preaching and teaching. And how often do we go to church, get upset by something, and then disappear? I'm not going back there because I don't like the way the church operated. I don't like the way they neglected this. I don't like the hypocrisy. I don't like the fact that the preacher didn't wear a tie. I don't like fill in the blank with whatever. I'm sure anyone who has spent any time around church can come up with a list as long as your arm of reasons that people have stopped going to church. That's not the example Jesus set. The example Jesus set is go. Even when it's upsetting, go back. Try to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Be active in the church. If you're passive and sitting and observing, in my experience, the people who are passive in church, sitting and observing, they're the ones most likely to get upset, leave, and not come back. But Jesus, he went back, he was active, he was teaching, he was preaching, and that's our example as well. We got church, Jesus gave us the church, Jesus commanded us to go to church. When something upsets us, how should we react? By going back to church, just as Jesus did. So that's your word for Wednesday. Take it, make of it what you will. And I hope to see you in church this Sunday. Easter Sunday, again, this is a ministry of Lakefield Baptist Church. And if you're in the Lakefield area and don't have a church to attend, we would love to see you join us. Thank you for joining me today.